Hello and welcome to the Sports Podcast presented by Collings Though Network. I'm your host, Chris Collings, alongside.
Nolan Thode. So despite me wearing a hockey jersey and Curtis wearing a baseball cap at the moment, we're going to be talking about the NBA Finals and a little bit about the playoffs to this point. So I guess we'll just kind of jump into the playoffs as a whole, posing a question to you. You know, from the teams that maybe didn't make it here, what do you think was the best series of these playoffs to this point?
For me, I think I got to think about like expectations and who I thought was going to win and who I wanted to win for a lot of these series. But if we're just going to look at well, in my mind, I think I'll go with the Kings Warriors. It went 7 games, really, really exciting games. I really wish the Kings won it, and then maybe like it would have been bona fide my number
If
one
Kings
if
won
the
that
Kings won.
series, it would probably be my favorite. Um, Happy that it went seven though. We both predicted that it was going to go 7 games, but we both had Sacramento winning. But didn't play too much of an impact in the grand scheme of things because the
No,
Warriors lost in the very next round, which was another great series and probably, I mean, probably the last time I say we see LeBron versus Curry. Uh, we could see,
very
I
good
mean, we could see
chance.
it again. It's just I don't know. I,
Yeah,
both the Lakers and the Warriors, like LeBron only has a few more years left, and then what's the direction of the Warriors now after this loss? I know you and I both weren't a fan of kind of the press that followed. Steve Kerr saying that it wasn't a championship roster, despite them literally winning the championship last year, and then now just news coming out in the past few days, Bob Myers, the GM for the entire dynasty, did step down.
what do you say there?
I was just saying how in the past few days now we've learned that Bob Myers, the GM of the Warriors, throughout the dynasty, he's stepped down from that position.
Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I thought he was always the
hmm
guy there.
So so I feel like I don't know, even though they've lost some
They
pieces
could,
along
yeah,
the way, now it kind of just feels like maybe some big changes are coming in Golden State.
yeah. Maybe it seems like the direction, the culture, like is definitely like it's still the shooting, like Steve Kerr's team,
hmm
but like goes all the way up to the management. We might see some new faces. We could see a Warriors team take on a new identity in the next 5 seasons. Which, yeah, I completely agree with you. It just kind of felt like borderline unprofessional for Steve Kerr to come out and say that. Like, just kind of
hmm
like disrespectful to his players that literally went out there last season and won the ring for them. But no,
Yeah.
they're gone. And then the Lakers hype got real for a minute there. But that Denver series, just like, wow, Denver's so good. They proved it
hmm
in that series, but wow, they were so dominant.
Yeah, and we'll get to Denver in a sec when we talk the finals. Just yeah, I mean the Lakers, they were 2-10 to start the season, and a team that we always covered whenever we talked basketball throughout the season, just because you know there's a lot of media attention there. But who would have thought that a Western Conference Finals run, and you know they were close. It was a close sweep. Obviously, it was still a
Yeah, the
sweep,
games were good.
but yeah, it was good games. And when I have some stats for the series, like average margin of victory for the winning teams, and the Lakers was actually the least. Like they had the closest games against Denver when they lost. So you know. It was a good valiant effort. LeBron with 49 and 9 in that game
Yeah,
four pretty much
what
left
a
everything on
game.
the floor. He was the only player in the entire game to play all 48 minutes. And at his age, I just find that crazy.
Yeah, like what, 38 now?
38 LeBron. And I don't know. It kind of felt like this could be his last chance, but I don't know. I think with a full training camp and more time to gel, I think this Lakers team is going to be really scary next year. Depending on the moves they make in the offseason, I don't think D'Lo will be back. I think they're going to target
Mm-mm.
more heavy guard. We've heard rumors Trey Young has been a target potentially going to LA. I'd like to see how that works. Bit of a defensive liability, but the rest of the team kind of steps up for it. Just they really turned it around and they were like the best defensive team in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know. I think and
Yeah, it's
the reason I say they're the best or they were the best defensive team in the playoffs is because I don't know. I just feel like people are thinking Miami's D is going to come out here and gives Denver something they haven't seen before, whereas I don't think that's going to be the case at all. Um,
no agreed.
yeah, and
Well,
then
yeah,
we had so speaking of the Miami Heat though, that kind of created a lot of buzz, a lot of series where they upset the Bucks in round one in 5 games. That
Yeah,
was
pretty much the only like notable first round series.
the first round. It was the
Oh,
Sacramento series that
yeah.
went to Game 7 with Curry's 50 piece, and then I found it weird that twice this season there was a Game 7 points record set. Curry
Yep.
initially, and then Jason Tatum against the Sixers, which also I was disappointed in that result. They were up 3-2 Philadelphia, and I honestly think, I mean, Miami could have beat them as well, but I don't know. I feel like it probably would have been Denver Sixers had they
Yeah.
had they won
Would
that
have had the
series,
Jokic and Embiid battle.
which would have been really good to see. Instead, we got to see Boston Miami for the third time in the last 4 years, which was a really good series in itself. We almost saw the first ever 3-0 comeback, and I think until Miami like went on their first big run in that Game 7, I pretty much had written it off. I was like, oh, okay, they're gonna be the first team to do it, and we're gonna have Celtics Nuggets.
Yeah, it really looked like it in the entire first half. It was like, oh, there's a real chance here. But and then like being in Boston, like this is of course where I am now, wearing the Red Sox hat. Being in Boston, I walked to TD Gardens today, and they still have all their like beat the Heat and like their Celtics playoff stuff are even still up. So it seems like they're still like like realizing what happened. They're like, oh, we didn't actually do this. We didn't come back.
Hmm.
But it's not even like an anger. It's just like a deflation feeling for Boston.
Yeah, and
Becoming the first team ever to lose to two 8 seeds in the same, first city to lose to two 8 seeds um,
mhm.
in both NHL and NBA in the same year.
Yeah, I find that crazy. Big expectations for both the Bruins and the Celtics, and they fall short. Lots of decisions I think coming in the offseason for the Celtics. What are they going to do with Jaylen Brown? Are they going to keep him and Tatum, give him a supermax, and they have like two, $300 million players on their books pretty much, or trade him,
Yeah,
which I
I don't
think
know how
is
you do that.
I think trading him is probably the more likely option at this point, especially after that Game 7 performance where he had, 8 turnovers, I want to say.
Yeah,
He was pretty bad, and you can make a highlight reel of the turnovers alone. So, yeah, unfortunate. But the finals that we do have on our hands is between the Western Conference champion Denver Nuggets and the Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat, who are the second 8 seed to ever come to make it this far. The first being the Knicks in you have the year
99,
99, and they lost to the
losing to the Spurs. Yeah,
Spurs. Hmm. But yeah, I think I just have a little bit written on each team, and I'll just kind of run through that. So
yeah. Let's hear it.
The Denver Nuggets this season, as I said, the first seed in the West, which was huge for them because that home court advantage. A lot of people I see on social media right now are saying, "Oh my gosh, Denver's path was Minnesota round one, Phoenix round two, 7 seed LA round three, and then a 8 seed in round four." It's like they were the 1 seed. They locked up that home court. They locked up, having maybe weaker matchups on their hand. And credit to their amazing regular season. We see, Miami didn't have a good regular season and they were still able to overcome that. But, it played to Denver's advantage being able to, kind of beast on those opponents. It's their first appearance in the finals, never before made it. And currently
Like
they're
yeah, 40 plus years.
I know, which is crazy. They're 12-3 so far in the playoffs, only 3 losses. 2-0 against the Heat in the regular season this year, and then they're also 8-0 at home in the playoffs. They haven't lost. Something about that altitude. Another fun fact: this is like the highest altitude difference in a NBA
Yeah,
Finals of all time because Miami's like a meter
right
above
on
sea
sea
level,
level. Yeah,
and then yeah, Denver's Mile High City, obviously. But yeah, round one for Denver was against the Timberwolves, which they beat in 5 games. They only lost game four. They were up 3-0. Minnesota, they might have let them get that win at home just so they could
yeah.
come
Like
back and close it out. Their average margin of victory in that series was 12.5. So,
yeah,
when they
blowouts, just
won,
straight blowouts.
it wasn't really a contest. And then in that series, Jokic had 26 points, 12 and a half rebounds, and 9 assists were his averages. So pretty good, but those all three of those averages are actually below his playoff averages now.
Which
Um,
is unreal. It doesn't make sense. It does
yeah,
not make sense how one man can bully like
yeah, he's
a
been
playoffs
incredible.
like
He
that.
has 8 triple doubles in this playoffs, which is the most all time. Previously, it was Wilt at 7, and now Jokic has 4 to 7 games to get more triple doubles, and I think he's gonna really separate himself, and that record honestly could be untouchable. Just because there's obviously players who can get triple doubles here and there, but just it seems like it's too easy for him just because the rebounds are kind of a given, and
Yeah,
he's the primary playmaker on that team, even though
yeah,
he's not
he's
the
a
point guard.
great rebounder, and it's just like it's also another Wilt Chamberlain stat is he's the first player to average a triple double since Wilt Chamberlain did it, and he only did it once, and that's not even mentioning how he's also putting up 30 points a night.
No, he's
Like
been
while he's the
crazy.
primary playmaker too, he's also the primary scorer. Even though Jamal Murray's been going off and his shooting splits like Michael Jordan's right now with how efficient he's been shooting the ball, but still it's been Jokic averaging 30.
Yeah. Speaking of Jokic averaging 30, round two, they beat Phoenix in 6 games. This I felt like the series could have gone seven, but it was 2-0, and then Phoenix won two at home. But then, Denver came back one at home and then closed the series out in Phoenix. It was pretty much only Devin Booker and Kevin Durant versus, the entire Nuggets. And I feel like as soon as I watched game one against the Clippers in round one for the Suns, I kind of started to lose hope in them. We both had them as our finals champions. And I don't
Yep.
know, I didn't watch a lot of Suns games this year, but it didn't seem like they had, the championship supporting cast. Obviously, the star talent was
No.
there.
Yeah.
But then, Jokic kind of dominates DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul gets hurt. So a couple
Yeah.
things not
Hamstring.
playing in their favor. I think next year, I believe they're like plus 900 or plus 1,000 to win the championship next year. And I think, with a full offseason, maybe bring in a guy, James Harden's been rumored. I think they've got more time to fill out that bench. I think Phoenix, if they're going to do it, probably next year would be a good bet. But they lost this year. Denver's average margin of victory in the series was 17.25. So Denver
Wow.
blew them out in all of their wins, especially in that game six. It was pretty much the same situation that Phoenix had last year against the Mavericks, where it was like not even a game at
Yeah.
home
Embarrassing.
at halftime. And Jokic's averages in that series were 34 and a half points, 13.2 rebounds, and 10.3 assists. So he was just,
Yeah. That's
that's
not fair.
nuts. That's like,
It, yeah.
I can't, I probably couldn't even do that with my player if I tried. Like,
Like it's so crazy to think that this guy was a second round pick, like 42, 43,
41.
whatever. 41, there you go.
Talking about
And
credentials.
he just did that against the number one pick. Number one
Mhm.
pick from what, 2018? Like
Yes,
2018, yeah, or 2019, one of the two. But
the Luca
it's
year.
just like, man, like, I mean, I don't want to hate on DeAndre Ayton, but I'm going to hate on DeAndre Ayton. What was he doing in that series? It looked like he just didn't show up to play basketball.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
especially not defense. Especially not defense.
We talked about
Like,
Jaylen Brown, how he kind of played himself out of Boston in that series. I think DeAndre Ayton could have played himself out of Phoenix, and they could be looking to move on from him. Last year there
I
was
fully
lots of
think so.
controversy, but it was more of a rift between him and Monty. Now they've fired Monty Williams, which I don't know how I feel about that. There's a big coaching carousel going on right now, which we'll get to when we get to the off season. But yeah, I don't know. Phoenix, we'll see what they do next year. But back to Jokic, I wrote on my whiteboard in Waterloo back in my room like a few days ago. Just Jokic is having the greatest prime for a center that I've ever seen
Man. Like you've seen in your life or you've
in
just
my
seen
life.
seen?
No, in
Okay.
my life. Because, and we've talked
Think
about this
about
earlier
that,
in the year
but
that, this season has kind of brought back the big men. Jokic, Embiid, they're kind of bringing back the importance of the center position. Whereas, DeAndre Jordan was first team All NBA a few years ago,
yeah,
and the
that's a
center
great point.
position was just kind of like, because there weren't so many stretch bigs, and usually the stretch bigs weren't very physical. So they're kind of what it was a weird, like the game was becoming, you needed spacing. But now we have these, big men that can shoot, and the position is back, and averaging a triple double in the playoffs. I think that's very fair to say that Jokic is having, with two MVPs in the two prior seasons, and if he gets a championship this year, I think this is the greatest prime of a center that I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, and honestly, you could go back through NBA history and stack this stretch, especially if they win,
With like
with
Shaq,
any
early 2000, Hakeem.
like yeah, Bill Walton on the Blazers got one ring, one MVP. It's like these are the guys who we could start like historic primes.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's hard to think. And as well as doing it with the competition he has, with Embiid in the league, like with like the resurgence of big Sabonis being good and physical, and these guys. And now he's about to face Bam Adebayo in the finals, and it's going to be a really, really good test for him. And it will cement his legacy if he's able to absolutely cut up that defense, especially Bam Adebayo. Like that'll
Yeah.
cement his legacy and
Mhm.
this prime.
Yeah, he won the first ever Magic Johnson Finals MVP. I found it funny how, it was the first ever time where there was a final or a conference finals MVP, and the Lakers in LA had to witness it awarded to opposing player, and then the Celtics in Boston had to see the Larry Bird trophy awarded to a different player.
I hadn't
Um,
thought about that till now.
yeah. But speaking of the Lakers series, it was a sweep. Um, I wrote on my board, I was cheering hard for the Oilers in the NHL, and then the Lakers were probably my team in the NBA. I wrote down on my calendar the days Lakers had games, and I only wrote the first four games on the schedule because, it wasn't confirmed there would be a game five or six. But yeah, I never had to write down any scheduled game five or six because it was done in 8 days. Their average margin of victory, though, was only 6 points. So, LA kept it close.
I
But
battled.
I've talked about Jokic's stats these last two series, but I'm going to go to Jamal Murray, who had a crazy series. A little inconsistent half to half, but still he finished with a solid stat line every game. And, that's all that really matters. He averaged 32 and a half points, 6.3 rebounds, and 5.3 assists on 52, 40, 95 splits. So he's the first player in NBA history to average 50, 40, 90 on with 30 points in a series. So, kudos to the Kitchener product.
Yeah, incredible. And it's it's like what you said, half to half. It's been really inconsistent, and it's like I think some people are noticing that, but like mostly it's people giving him his flowers for that,
Hmm.
or for just the averages and whatnot. But like, which game was it there when he had a 6 point half and a 30 point half? Like,
Hmm. Well, he had like 20 something in the third or in the fourth quarter of game three, I want to say. He pretty much took over in that fourth quarter. And it's like, yes, he's only doing it in one half, but it's like, I want a player on my team who can drop 30 and a half. There was a
yeah,
funny TikTok I saw. It was like a Lakers fan, and he was like upset watching like highlights of Jamal Murray hitting shots. He's like, I thought we got rid of Curry last series. And it's like, honestly, with those stats, Jamal Murray is playing like Stephen Curry.
yeah, and the way he actually plays, takes aggressive shots, aggressive 3 pointers, makes tough lays, very finesse.
Hmm.
It's a really, really pretty brand of basketball that he's been putting on.
Hmm. And a lot of talk in NBA media I've seen in the last, week and a bit is that we need to start talking about Jamal Murray and Jokic being the NBA's premier duo just because of how well they can play off each other. You
Yeah,
look at Boston, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they do not gel all. We saw in that game seven, they were just playing ISO ball. It wasn't like, they complement each other. Whereas Jokic and Murray just, create opportunities for each other, create mismatches for each other. And, we're seeing some beautiful basketball at display.
yeah. I've like immediately my brain goes to like connecting that with a different team and a team that was in the play-in and lost to Miami, the Atlanta Hawks. They had Trey Young, and I feel like the issue with Trey Young is that he needs his Shaq, he needs his big man to go with, and they went out and they spent a first-round pick on Murray,
Hmm.
DeJounte Murray, and we saw it just didn't work. It didn't work because that wasn't his duo. Like Trey and Murray did not bounce off each other well. Like
Hmm.
it's very clear that like in modern day NBA, you can't have two of similar positional groups and really succeed. You got to have these guys that, like you say, bounce off each other, play off each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like, LeBron and AD did in 2020.
LeBron and Kyrie did in 2016.
Exactly. But we've also seen like so many examples of, GMs just putting together, great players and hoping that, it's gonna produce like Westbrook, LeBron, and AD together, which, ooh, cool, we have Russell Westbrook, he's gonna get us triple doubles, but just on the court, it just doesn't work as well as you think. And I don't want to necessarily say this duo because they haven't been healthy, but like, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George play a similar style, and they haven't really been able to take that next step that people have expected them to. So I do think, you know, having a point guard and a center and them both being able to do, similar things, but, have a different impact on the game, I think is a large reason why the Denver Nuggets are, heavy favorites in this NBA Finals.
Yeah, and it's more so like the way they play off each other. Like it'll be interesting to see Miami because Miami is run by that superstar who mostly works in that ISO range in those ISO plays. But they still have had like Bam Adebayo running a lot with Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent and a lot of these other guys where they do play that team brand of basketball. But I'm mostly interested in seeing what Jimmy Butler alone is going to be able to do.
Mhm. And I think you go back to the Miami series. I guess I'll get into Jimmy Butler's stats in a second. I'll make that point when we get to Jimmy Butler. But just running through the Nuggets, they're pretty much their main cast. Jokic averaging 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists on the playoffs. On pretty much 40% or 54% field goal. Um, and he's been shooting 47% from three, so pretty lethal when he pulls from three as well.
Yeah, from your
Um,
center.
Murray's averaging close to 28, 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1.7 steals. So, he's had a big impact on the defensive end. He made the play to contest LeBron on the Lakers' final play in Game 4. So a very like he's pretty
Oh wow,
undersized, and I think he's gets underrated as a defender. So I just wanted to put in that steals. Porter Jr. He's averaging 14 and a half, 8 rebounds, and 1.8 assists.
wow!
1.8
I'm
assists.
shocked
So
by those rebounds.
almost 2 assists a game, and his career average is 1.1. So
That's
MPJ
where
stepping up. I'm pretty sure he had like six in one of their games against LA.
that's
And
where the average is skyrocketing from.
yeah, Aaron Gordon, the swashbuckling pirate that he is, um, he's averaging 13 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Just kind of one of those energy guys, and gels well with Jokic as well.
Thank
Sometimes he can be
goodness he's
lost out
not.
there.
Yeah,
Sometimes he gets lost out there. Sometimes the Lakers were able to take advantage of him specifically. But there's just it's such a good supporting cast that even if one of their supporting guys doesn't have a great game, they have lots of guys to step up.
yeah. You didn't even mention KCP, who became like a super sniper in like a lot of these series.
Yeah, KCP averaging 11.7, 1.3 steals, and he's shooting 41% from three, so pretty efficient there. He's got finals experience against the Miami Heat, so I think they're going to be looking to him for veteran leadership. Another guy who's been huge is Bruce Brown, who's averaging
Yep.
12 points off the bench, a steal on 53% shooting, so he's been pretty efficient. He likes to get to the basket, and then he's also been a little bit of a crafty playmaker. Obviously, Jokic and Murray are going to eat up those assist numbers, but Bruce Brown's been doing pretty good, kind of as their backup point guard, if you will. And then just the last two players who are part of the rotation are Jeff Green, who's averaging 4 points, 2 rebounds, just kind of a veteran guy. We'll see how much
Yeah.
play he gets in the finals. And then Christian Brown or Braun, he was their first round
Yeah.
pick last season, 21 overall. He's just averaging 2 points, 2 rebounds. We might not see him in the
I
rotation,
mean,
but he's been
definitely
getting
not.
minutes. And then just like others that are also on their roster, Reggie Jackson. I saw
Yeah,
him
I was
once
about
in
to
the
say
LA
Reggie
series.
Jackson isn't he on their team?
And if they need a big comeback, that could be a guy just because he has got a great 3 point shot that they could give some minutes. I don't know if they're going to be needing to make a huge comeback in any
We'll see.
game, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll see.
Zeke Nnaji, just some depth, size if they
Bodies.
need it. And then Ish Smith, not that he's going to play, but he's on the
Ish Smith
Nuggets.
on his 17th NBA team.
Yeah, Ish Smith being on the Nuggets is kind of like I was looking because I have a shirt for the Milwaukee Bucks championship, and I was like, oh my God, Jeff Teague was on that team, even though he played in the finals,
Yeah,
but it's just kind of random. And then just for all those guys, how they got to the Nuggets. So we've talked about Jokic, second round pick, pick number 41 in 2014. So great on the general manager, whoever it was at the time. I don't know if it was the same guy, but to get a second round steal like that uh, from Serbia, he, it's just the most strange player ever, maybe in Jokic. Just the shots that he's able to make, just everything about him is just shouldn't work as well as it does, but it does.
yeah,
And
agreed.
then Jamal Murray, he was the seventh overall pick in 2016. That pick was a pick swap with the New York Knicks, which went all the way back to the Carmelo Anthony trade. So Jamal Murray is a Nugget because of the Carmelo Anthony trade, uh, in some way or
Wow.
another. Michael Porter Jr., 14th overall pick in 2018. He had the big injury, the back injury in his one season in college, but he was projected to be like a top 5 pick before then. They took a chance on him. He's had
Yeah,
some
he was the
injuries, but
most hyped prospect coming out of high school, like ever. It feels
mhm,
like.
because of his size and his just clean offensive game. He's just got a really nice jump shot, and he likes, gets in his spots, and he's gonna have to be that, consistent third option, I think, for them to really do what they, are expected to do in this finals. Aaron Gordon, who was acquired at the trade
Thank
deadline,
goodness he's not on the Magic.
yeah, in 2021, and he's found a home in Denver. Uh, so yeah, a big addition. Bruce Brown was signed last season to a 2-year, $13 million deal. So they still have another year of that after this. Jeff Green signed a 2-year deal back in 2021, so he'll be a free agent after this year. And then Christian Braun, 21st overall pick last year, and then their head coach Mike Malone has been the coach since the 2015-16 season, and he's been, I want to say, the most successful coach in their franchise history. Winning percentage wise, George Karl probably has more of like a longevity on him. But I mean, the first coach to take them
George,
to the
yeah,
finals.
yeah.
So
George Karl definitely has the wins, but win percentage, yeah, might be.
yeah, so that's it for the Nuggets. I mean, I think you and I are probably both leaning towards picking them. Uh,
If I had to put money down, gun to my head, it's gonna be the Nuggets.
we'll get to our predictions in terms of the games after we talk about the Heat, but we got to talk about the Heat. They're still here. Um, Yeah, so they're the 8 seed in the East. They were the 7th seed, but they lost the first play-in game, and then beat Chicago. So, they were only one loss away in that play-in from not even being in the playoffs, and now here they are, the first play-in team ever to reach the finals. Uh, they were the first, or them and the Lakers were the first play-in teams to win a series, actually. This was a question I posed to you when we were talking about the playoffs was, are we going to see a play-in team finally win a series? And, you know, it was the
I
story of
mean,
the play-in teams. Both two play-in
yeah,
teams were in the conference finals. Um, but yeah, it's their 7th finals appearance, which it's pretty big. But I don't know. I just feel like it could be a larger number. But they didn't have any appearances before their first in the mid 2000s against the Mavericks, so it does kind of make sense. Um,
yeah.
they're 12-6 in these playoffs. Um, and yeah, as I'd mentioned before, the second 8 seed to reach the finals. Their first round series, they beat Milwaukee in 5, which I
Which,
don't know,
wow,
even
yeah,
that was a series where until they went on a run to close out game 5 where Milwaukee was just like dead cold. I don't They probably had like 8 points in the fourth quarter. Um but yeah, so it was just one of those series where until that happened, it was still in my brain, okay, Milwaukee's gonna figure it out. And then especially when Tyler Hero went out, it was just kind of like,
yeah,
oh, okay. So now it's like, oh, they lose Giannis, but he's not out for the whole series, but Hero's out for, you know, what people were saying was the rest of the Heat season, but now,
yeah,
he's targeting game 3 for a return in Miami,
yeah.
so
He was
we might
warming up
we
this
might see
morning.
Tyler Hero. But yeah, their average margin of victory was 10.5, so they weren't even just, they did have a couple close wins, but
Yeah,
you
they
know,
had one
they had
OT
some
win there, but
they had some blowout wins over the Bucks, which is a really good, they were the best record in the NBA this
yep.
season. So, and a really good team at home too, and they were able to take 2 in Milwaukee. So, good on them. Jimmy Butler in that series. The point I was going to make earlier, you saying you want to see, the offense run through Jimmy Butler. What's he going to do? I was pretty much just going to say he has to have a series like he did against Milwaukee, I think. He had 37.5 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. Those were his averages in that series. And then he had the 50-point game
Yeah,
in game 3, I'm pretty sure. So I think Jimmy Butler is going to have to be, not only the number one scoring option, but an efficient number one scoring option. He wasn't that against Boston, even though he was the conference finals MVP and had a good series overall. He had some games where, it's like halftime. He has, 11 points on, 2 for 10 shooting, things
yeah,
like
or
that.
like four
So,
to 12. Yeah, it's just not falling.
and then, that goes back to 2020 as well. He had a crazy performance and they still lost in six. I think he's gonna have to give even more than that. But yeah, uh, that was their series against the Bucks. Then they had the Knicks in round two. Jimmy Butler facing off his former coach Tom Thibodeau, who coached him twice actually in New York and in Minnesota, or Chicago and
Yeah,
Minnesota.
Chicago.
They won that series in six, which, you know, it's weird that it took them more games to beat the Knicks than they did the Bucks. Average margin of victory was 9.5. Again, when they're winning, those games were put away late or put away, earlier than, right at the end. And then Jimmy Butler had a great series in that one as well. 24 and a half points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 blocks per game. Well,
Yeah,
1.8. But he's been really good on, steals, blocks. He's just a great, isolation defender, and he's just one of those guys where it's really hard to get past them. He did a pretty good job against LeBron in 2020. Obviously, LeBron still won Finals MVP and had a great series. But I don't know. I'm interested to see who he's guarding. Probably Jamal, I want to say. But
yeah.
they have some good defensive guards. So I don't know. Maybe they run a zone, which they had a lot of success against the Celtics doing. So maybe that's what they do. Get into Jokic's head, but I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I would be scared to do a zone versus Jokic just because of how likely
exactly.
he
He
is
he
to
can just
dice it up.
exploit you, and yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah.
then the series that they just had, they beat the Celtics in seven. They were up 3-0, and then they almost choked. The first ever um, time that it got to 7 games where the away team won. So
Hmm.
or
Wow.
something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. It was just like all the times that it went to game seven before, the team who won the 3 games before they lost, but they were playing on the road or something like that. So they were able to go in and prevent, Boston from making history on their home floor. Their average margin of victory in that series was 14.5. So when they
Yeah. With
won,
that
they
last
won.
game. Yeah. That
Um,
last game being like a 20-point win. Yeah.
Yeah, and then lastly, just for the player of that series, Jimmy Butler was great in that series. He did win that award, but a
But
guy that I'm gonna give a lot of credit to is Caleb
the
Martin.
guy I'm gonna give the award to is Caleb Martin.
Yeah, I think it should have been him. It's come out now that it was like 5 votes for Jimmy Butler, 4 votes for Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
So he was 1 vote away. And I was watching with some friends that game, and we were like, we were just cheering so hard for Caleb Martin to get the first ever Larry Bird Finals MVP in front of Boston fans. They would have been
That
like,
would have
"Oh
been
my God,
so
Caleb Martin!"
perfect. It would have been
But he
so nice.
averaged 19 points, 6.5 rebounds on 60% field goal, 49% from three, and 87% from the line. He only had
Yeah.
8 free throw attempts, made 7 of them, but still 87% from the line. He was really good in that series, and it's just, with Miami, they need that unsung hero kind of guy to step up, uh, just because, even if Jimmy's having a great game, this is kind of an offense that in my opinion, kind of peaks around, 100 and 105 points. And the Nuggets are, they've been scoring, in the 110s, 120s in these playoffs. So they're going to have their hands full and they're going to have to be able to keep up if they want to make this a series.
Yeah. It's crazy to think with like it really is just Jimmy Butler because yeah, it's like you said, the Miami offense really does just cap out around 100, 105. And you just look at their roster and you look at who's going to actually like score the ball and you're like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Hmm.
It really is those guys. And I saw a stat like earlier today where it was like Jimmy Butler's first in like clutch buckets, first in like a bunch of like efficiency stats, and it's like that's why they win.
Hmm.
It's not these like high scoring like they're not out shooting anyone. They're just out playing them.
What I will say about Miami is that they've been really good in close games. I feel like when, it's a 5 point game with like 5 minutes left, you know, they know how to just play their style. They're maybe not going to score every time they're up with the ball, but they play good defense. And in circumstances like in Game 6 against Boston, it was a foul on a 3 point attempt that got them that lead. Obviously,
That was really smart. Yeah,
Derek White had the crazy game winner, but they were close to closing that game out on a pretty big run.
yeah.
Um,
You gotta
in
give a
terms
lot of
of
respect to Eric Spoelstra just for how
Mhm.
good he's done.
Exactly. And I think he's a big reason why they're here as well. Um, Jimmy Butler's averages on the playoffs 28.5 points, 7 rebounds, 5.7 assists, and 2.1 steals. We know what he's going to bring. He's playoff Jimmy, playoff Himmy, whatever you want to call him. Uh,
Timothy Butler
I
right
think he's going
now.
to be the best player on the Miami Heat in this series. I think that's a given. And then yeah,
He'll
with
probably end
like
up being the best player of the series.
we'll see. Yeah, like
I would
in
bet
the
on
in the
that.
2020 finals, I'd say he was the best player in the series, even though the Miami Heat lost. And the thing about that 2020 team is like it. I don't really remember it being like just Jimmy in the first 3 rounds. It was really the finals where he, took over as that like number one guy.
Yeah,
Um, and the thing is I think this Miami Heat team like isn't playing as it's hard to say, but I don't think.
I mean, yeah, Tyler Hero was really going off in the bubble, and they had
I think the bubble Heat had, you know, more going for them going into that finals than this Miami team does. This
agreed.
Miami team is just kind of like they're sticking around and there's 2 teams left. Yeah, but it's like, the Montreal Canadiens made the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago too.
Yeah, it
So
feels very similar.
so you got
And
to win to get, that remembrance for history. But yeah, Bam Adebayo, another big reason too, specifically Bam Adebayo, he in that bubble was like a legit second like B option, whereas in this playoffs he's kind of been wishy-washy. 16.8 points, sure, 9.2 rebounds, 3.8 assists,
yeah, hope for
a
a little more.
steal. It's just like I don't know when Jamal Murray, the Nuggets' second best player, is averaging 27, almost 28 points a game. It's gonna be tough, but we'll see. And I think more so the focus on Bam in this series is how he's gonna do against Jokic.
Yeah,
And obviously Bam's a great defensive player, but it's like Anthony Davis was just guarding Jokic and he averaged a triple double on him. It's just
yeah, and Anthony Davis is one of
Jokic.
the better defenders
There's
in the league.
there's just not a lot you can do against Jokic. We'll see what they game plan. Again, Caleb Martin, his averages on the playoffs: 14 points, 5.7 rebounds, and then a steal. Um, Kyle Lowry, he's making his second finals appearance. He's averaging near 9 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Also a steal. I think if I'm Miami Heat, like he hasn't been playing as well, but it's just that finals experience. Like I would feel like
Yeah,
I would be giving him more minutes than he's been seeing. Uh, I don't know. They've just been more confident in Vincent and Martin just because of what they can do on the defensive end. But
and offense really at this point. Both
yeah.
guys going off on multiple different occasions now.
But if
Yeah,
Miami does win this series, I would like to see Kyle Lowry be a big part of that. Just
yeah,
the Raptors
agreed.
fan in me. Gabe Vincent is averaging 13 points, 4 assists as well. So even he's been that good playmaker. He's averaging almost as many as Kyle Lowry, and then a steal. And then Struess averaging 10 points. Duncan Robinson averaging 9.3
And
on
a very important 9.3. He's
yeah,
been really
on on
stepping
on
up.
44% from three. So it's been pretty good. And then as I'd mentioned, Tyler Hero's targeting game 3 for a return. And I know Tyler I almost called him Kyle Lowry. I know Tyler Hero is like a really good
Oh, man. Whoa,
offensive
whoa,
player,
whoa.
but him coming off of a hand injury, like where he had hand fractures, I feel like that's gonna
Yeah,
affect
like
his shooting.
multiple finger fractures.
I feel like that's going to affect his shooting, and he's a defensive liability. I honestly, in Game 7, Malcolm Brogdon went out onto the floor, played a couple minutes, and then we didn't see him again. I could see that happening with Tyler Hero just because they've done it all without him, and I honestly don't think, he's going to make or break this team.
Yeah, but you got to go back and think about the bubble and how good he was and how much of a reason he was for that alongside Bam
Like
Adebayo.
offensively, sure. I'm just saying, like, I think Denver would write up to take advantage of Tyler Hero on
Oh,
like every
for sure.
play.
He
Get a
is a
switch
bench
where Tyler
option.
Hero's on Jokic, like
Yeah, no. He is a bench option where he comes in when you're like on a bad like when the other team's on a run. You bring him in, he hopefully sparks something. But yeah,
yeah.
it's going to be really interesting to monitor how he is used for the remainder of this series. Because
Mhm.
I did see him.
It's
I
like
saw a
I
video of him
I think
warming
he
up with
could
his
I
teammates.
think he can be good. I think he can be effective in spurts, but I think people who are expecting him to come back into the series, be like a 20 point per game scorer and just like lead the Heat to victories, I don't I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
And then the same, and then also just others on this team, Kevin Love,
Kevin
who
Love, big respect.
fun fact, has made the playoffs 5 times in his career and has gone to the finals 5 times in his career. So Kevin Love has not made the playoffs and
Whoa.
missed the finals in his
Yeah.
career. Um, a lot of like thanks to LeBron for
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about that because I was thinking in my head, like, Kevin Love's going to be a big part of this. He has finals experience. I was just trying to go through my head, like when has he been in the finals? And it was 2015, 2016, 2017,
2017,
2018,
2018.
and now.
Hasn't made the
Like,
playoffs since. So
like without, yeah,
The Cavs are pissed they cut him because they'd be in the finals.
over Miami, they would have beat the Knicks in round one and not blundered.
Yeah, that was a surprising series. And then, like we did for just Denver, how all these players got there. Jimmy Butler was a free agent signing in 2019, left Philadelphia. Uh, Big
And
controversy around that. They
on
kept
the
Tobias
best
Harris over
terms.
him. But another like Jimmy Butler is amazing. But I looked at like his Philadelphia stats and is like, yeah, it was good, but I don't I don't know if like you're so confident to give him the max. Uh,
Biggest thing in my mind from that series or from that season was that he closed games and
mhm.
he was the closer
And
when they needed a final shot.
that's something that in that game 6 against Boston and game 7 against Boston that Philadelphia didn't have. Harden was able to do it early in the series, but you know, he kind of ran out of gas and was not
Yeah.
really good in those fourth quarters in the last 3 games. But yeah, Bam Adebayo was 14th overall pick in 2017, so just the year before Porter Jr. Same
Oh,
pick.
real quick about Jimmy Butler. Something I read the other day is just going back on a story of how he got here. You know, the Sixers and then
Conceived
Minnesota,
by
of
Michael
course.
Jordan.
Conceived by Michael Jordan, went on to play college basketball for 4 years, and in his fourth year, knocked out Joe Mazzulla from the NCAA tournament, and then he
Mhm,
just knocked him out of the playoffs. Right now, that was
mhm.
when Joe Mazzulla was playing, though.
Yeah. I was watching the game with some Celtics fans and I was posing the question. It's like, even though he's a first year head coach, do you fire Missoula? Like, I think
I mean,
I think his head I think maybe give him another year, like more experience, but
he
a
literally
lot
came out with a quote after the game saying, "Like I messed that one up for us."
yeah, I don't know.
Like I don't know. We'll see. I think they give him another
It
year.
was
I
one of the Celtics fans I was with, he was funny. He said, like we gave him the interim head coach tag. He comes into the season, wins 15 games, they sign him to a 6-year contract. It's like maybe he's just coaching the team that just won the East and like
Yeah, and it's 15 games.
mhm.
But no,
Um,
continuing on with the players how they got there. Bam, high draft pick. Tyler
Bam
Hero.
was a first round pick out of Kentucky. I liked him in college. Another guy out of Kentucky, Tyler Hero, was the 13th overall pick in 2019.
Wasn't Jamal Murray also Kentucky? Or was
Jamal
he
Murray
Kansas?
also Kentucky. Lots of Kentucky in this series.
Yeah,
Um, Jokic did not go to Kentucky.
fun fact.
Caleb Martin was signed as an like a free agent in 2021, so only two like a year and a
That
half ago.
he's another guy. I read about his story the other day. Is that he was signed to the Hornets, uh,
Hmm.
and then
Him and
got
his
cut by
brother.
them. Yeah, him and his brother, and then he got cut by them and was working out at a facility owned and ran by J. Cole, his
Hmm.
close friend. And J. Cole called up someone he knew on the Miami Heat and sung his praises,
Hmm.
and then that's how he got signed eventually to them. And now we see him here
Yeah. So
making
shout out
20
to
plus
J.
million.
Cole. Shout
Shout
out
out
to
J.
J.
Cole.
Cole for that 19 points per game in the conference finals. Max Strus, another like kind of undrafted, underrated guy. He kind of jumbled around. He started in Chicago, then went to Boston, but landed in Miami in 2020, and he's just been a good 3-and-D guy for them. And then Gabe Vincent, same thing, signed in 2020, unrestricted or undrafted free agent. Um, oop, wait.
Lost the stats.
It's just like my oh shit, I need to plug my computer in. It's like Power Saver came on, and then for whatever reason, like my files came up,
Oh,
and then I
fun.
was like, wait a second, did this stop? Did that stop the recording? Or you know how like battery low on phone does that shit?
Yeah, no.
It did. Okay, where was I?
Gabe Vincent joining the
Gabe
team,
Vincent,
undrafted free agent.
yeah, in 2020, another just good 3-and-D guy. Gonna steal minutes from Tyler Hero. Sorry, uh,
Not
Well, you
really.
basketball fans. Um, uh,
Sorry, Jack Harlow fans.
yeah, exactly. Duncan Robinson signed another undrafted free agent, signed in 2018. Played D3 college, or no, he played D3, and then he eventually made his way up to Michigan. Pretty sure he played for Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan, the yellow one, not the green one.
Yellow and blue. And then he was just,
Yeah,
lights
not the
out from
Spartans.
three. That's good enough to get him a contract, and he's just pretty much that's what he is. He's a 3-point threat. I looked at like his field goal percentage, and he was shooting like I have here, he's shooting 44% from three. But I was like, oh, his field goal percentage must be crazy. But it was only like 47% because he's pretty much only taking threes. It's like
Yeah,
the rare two from Duncan
the
Robinson,
rare
the fast
layup.
break layup. And then just other guys, Haywood Highsmith played a bit in that game seven, and then Cody Zeller, their backup center, but I don't think they're gonna trust him against Jokic. I think Bam's gonna be, wheezing after games. He's gonna be playing, 40 plus minutes,
He's gonna
and
recreate
then
that Jimmy Butler bubble photo.
yeah, and then Eric Spoelstra has been the head coach since 2008.
Second
He's
longest tenured.
Yeah, and then he's also like since being the head coach, they've made the finals six times, the Miami Heat in like 13 seasons, which is really impressive. Or no, more than
No,
or like 15 seasons, six times
yeah,
though.
yeah, and won it twice.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
I saw a thing today where it was like Jack Riley was like a report that from like 10 years ago where it was like some Miami players tried to have Spoelstra fired.
yeah,
And by some players, I mean LeBron James.
yeah. Like when he
He
was
went
coming
to
in, or like
Yeah, when he went to in 2010, they started off like 9-8, and they went to Pat Riley and was like, "Do this," and Pat Riley told the players, he's like, "You're not going to come to me and tell me to fire my coach. Your responsibility is to go play basketball." And here we are
LeBron
playing
goes back to
basketball.
Cleveland and fires the coach there, brings in Ty Lue, and then yeah, Pat Riley was not going to let LeBron be the GM.
No, he was not going to let him change the culture that they were building.
And you got
And
to
now we
respect
see it
that.
now.
Yeah,
Now we see
and
it now.
he's
Miami Heat have the best culture in the league.
And I honestly think if Mike Budenholzer is the coach of this team, they'd probably lose in the play-in. So I think Eric Spoelstra is a huge part of preparing his team, knowing how to expose, the other team and things like that. One thing before we get to our predictions, I will say is I don't expect Miami to win this series at all. I think they faced, a Bucks team that had an injured Giannis, kind of ran cold. And then, the Knicks,
Yeah,
who
Jalen Brunson was cold. Julius Randle isn't
Julius
a
Randle was
headliner.
terrible. And then even in that Boston series, they were up 3-0, almost choked. And if you watch that game 7, it was more Boston losing that game than Miami winning it.
I would say that for the first three games too was Boston losing instead of Miami beating them.
hmm And one thing that, all three of those teams had in common, the Bucks, the Knicks, and the Celtics, was they did not have the mental toughness it took to beat the Miami Heat. I think the Denver Nuggets have that, and I think they've been the best team in the playoffs since game 1 versus Minnesota, and they've played the best basketball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about some of the players they've had to go through. Kevin Durant, LeBron James, like
hmm
the two biggest names on the planet. You need mental toughness if you're going to beat them. And then you can
Exactly.
extend it back. Minnesota, like they have good players, like Gobert and Ant are both very
Yeah.
talented. And then you go
Yeah.
like Katie and Book, AD and Braun, and they had the mental toughness to get through all of them, and they've only lost 3 games.
Exactly. It's just like I think I think the Lakers, like this is just me being maybe like Braun stan, but like I think the Lakers beat the Heat, and
Yes,
the
I thought
Nuggets
the
just
Lakers
swept the
were gonna
Lakers,
go. Yeah, I
and the
thought the
Nuggets just
Lakers
swept the
were gonna
Lakers.
go on and win the finals.
So yeah, game 1 is tonight. This is probably coming out on Thursday, so tonight. But Thursday, June 1st is game 1 in Denver. Do you have any predictions for game 1?
Denver's taking it.
Yeah.
Not score predictions. I just think Denver's gonna show them what they've not played yet.
hmm I think Denver is, like anybody. I think maybe I don't know. There's some positions like maybe in the NHL, Sergei Bobrovsky with all that rest isn't going to be the same lights out goalie for game one of the Stanley Cup Finals. But I don't think a week off in basketball hurts you that much. I think if
I
anything, it's helped them. Celtic or the Heat just went through a 7 game series that they didn't want to go 7 games in. They
Nope,
wanted
they
it
had a
done in
few.
4.
Like they had a Gabe Vincent injury that happened in the games that should not have been played.
hmm And yeah, so I think Denver's going to be prepared for this game, and I have this. They win 116-102. I think they're going to
Yeah,
handily win
I agree.
game one.
I think it's going to be a handily beat because yeah, I just don't think Miami. Like I know they're great at preparing and it's Bolster and whatnot, but just I don't know if they're going to be
They
really ready
one thing
for.
they have won every game one. So
Yeah,
that's
but
something.
still,
But another
I just
thing
think
too, Denver hasn't
Denver's.
lost at home, and I I just don't see them losing this game one.
No,
I
me
think
neither.
they've. And the thing too is, it's like, yeah, the series isn't over until the series is over. When it was 3-0 Miami, like there's still a chance Boston was going to win that series. But I feel like when it was 3-0 Miami, they probably started preparing for Miami. Am
Or
I
yeah, they started preparing for Denver probably yeah right after that third game.
I'm like I
Oh
feel
no,
like
Denver.
Denver's
Yeah,
known that
no.
they're gonna play Miami for a while, and they were probably like,
Yeah,
oh, it might be the Celtics. Oh no, okay, we get the Heat, we get the team that we thought we were gonna play. So,
yeah, and they've probably been
um,
practicing to play.
yeah, game
Good
three,
point.
in
Wait,
Denver
game two.
again.
Or
I have
game
Denver
two in
taking
Denver.
this one as well.
I do too. I'm more 50-50 on this one because I really do think Miami is the type of team to steal one of these first two games, but I don't think Denver's losing at home. I really don't.
Yeah, I haven't lost at home yet. I have this being 105-99 game, a little bit
I respect
closer.
that. I think
Miami's
it will
more
be.
ready, but Denver takes it. And then game three, first game in Miami, supposedly Tyler Hero's return. I'm gonna give Miami this game.
I was
You
also
know,
going to give Miami that game.
they've won, I'm pretty sure, all game threes, where the series shifts back to Miami so far. So I think, they're gonna come back. The fans are gonna be, if they don't win this game, they're down 3-0, so they need to win it, and I think they do.
Yeah,
I have it being
agreed.
like 118, 109. The Heat
I
finally,
think that's going to be more of a slugfest. I think that's going to be maybe 99, like 92. Really think
yeah.
that's going to be a slugfest.
Oh, I just think coming home, they're going to feed off the fans, and that's the game where they're going to be able to explode on offense. Game four, I have being that slugfest. I have game
Mm.
four going to Denver, though. Losing game three,
You
they're
have the same series as me. I thought I
lose.
had Denver in five after, and Denver wins at home in game five.
Yeah. Denver, knowing that if they win this game, they can go home and win it on their home floor. I have them winning 98-95 in just like a
Ooh, yeah.
sludge. Like, this is
Nice
going to be like
slow game
a
for.
close game. Like I'm not discrediting Miami necessarily. They're 3 points away from the series being 2-2 in this hypothetical. But then the series does shift back to Denver. And again, I don't think they lose at home. They win that
Agreed.
game, a respectable 110-103. Miami bows their head, and Denver hoists the Larry O'Brien Jokic Finals MVP.
Couldn't agree more. Exactly how I had it. I didn't have score predictions, obviously, but I was flip flopping
The
between.
score predictions were more so just like what
Yeah,
type of game. Like game one,
yeah,
Denver blowout. Game two, close. Like Miami's more ready, but Denver still pulls away. Game three, Miami wins.
pulls
Game
away.
four,
Yeah,
slug, and then game five, like Denver scores a respectable 110. And I feel like scoring 110 points against the Miami Heat is kind of like holding something above your younger sibling who's 2 feet shorter and trying to get it. It's like, oh, are you gonna score 110? Can you reach us at 110? So
oh, that's mean. That's so mean.
they're like full NBA players. They
Yeah,
All of them would school me one on one, including Cody Zeller, especially Cody Zeller. Cody Zeller would
he's
fucking
6'11".
yeah. But I'm
No,
excited for the finals. I don't know.
I'm
Weirdly,
me personally. I'm flip flopping between Miami winning game two and game three because if Miami wins game two, hell, they have a chance. They legit have a chance if they win if they take game two in Denver.
mhm. I
And
just
I'm
think
going to immediately, my mind, if they win game two, I think it's a 50-50 chance between the two teams.
mhm. I
But
just think
right now, it's like 90
in
10.
a full 7 game series, I can't see Denver going 2-2 at home, and I think they take one on the road. And in that world, they win the finals. So I
Yeah.
think it's Denver's to win. I locked in the odds on Denver to win the finals have been pretty bad even since they
Yeah.
swept the Lakers. But I probably cashed in Denver to win the finals at the best line in that game seven. It was like in the third quarter, Boston was making a run. Boston was down six, and it went down to like minus 200 for Denver to win. Put $30 to win 15. Uh,
Hey,
money.
money's money.
Also, in that same session, I bet like uh, every single MLB division winner was like a dollar to return 100. I have uh, Rays, Dodgers, Astros, um, Rays, Dodgers, Astros. What are the Braves?
Yep.
And then like some of the higher odds ones, I took Guardians to win their division,
Ooh,
and then I took Cardinals to win their division. They're in like last right now, but they've been pretty good lately. Yeah, I don't know. Once there's no more baseball or once there's no more hockey and basketball to talk about, we'll get into the MLB. We can probably talk about the Jays. In the near future, they've kind of been
yeah.
up and down. But yeah, shortly there will be a similar episode to this, but structured for the Stanley Cup Finals. We have Vegas versus Florida in that series. Uh,
Which, hey, my prediction, hey, I have
you had
50%.
Vegas coming out of the West. I'll give you that. But yeah, if you showed you know someone from the 1950s that Stanley Cup Finals, they'd fall back in their seat.
They'd have
It's
they'd
like
have an
like
allergic
I
reaction.
part of me does like the non-traditional markets just because it's like cool to see their fan bases having a reason to cheer for them, and a cup run can do a lot for a team's longevity in terms of fans returning to the rink. But I was just thinking in my head, I was like, damn, if there was like a nice like storied franchise, like I don't know.
Mm.
In my head, it was like Flyers.
Rangers, Devils.
I know you don't like the Flyers, but like I was like, oh, if the Flyers were in this Final Four, I'd be like pulling for them hard, or just
I was saying like Rangers or Devils would probably be like that for me, where it'd be like I'd probably pull for them real hard. But no,
yeah.
it's a
And then
real
cool part
creative
about
one.
cool part about the Stanley Cup Finals is two teams who haven't won it before. Last time we saw that was the last time Vegas was in the Cup Finals. But then before that, it was the Ducks Sens series,
Oh wow,
which is such a weird Cup Finals. Like that
yeah.
was the Cup Finals. It's like, oh my God, it's gonna be Anaheim or Ottawa.
Hey, I mean, hey, when you look at teams like the Hurricanes, like they probably got a lot of fans just based off that 2006 run,
hmm Yeah,
or
I think
2007,
so
whatever.
for sure. And then like Pittsburgh too, like they were struggling. They get Crosby, obviously bring fans back, but the fact that they were able to go on a cup run and then win it the next year, definitely.
That was
It's
huge.
so weird. It's so weird how you know I never think of Pittsburgh being a fair weather market, but like before Crosby, they were on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yeah, which is
I think
yeah, almost selling.
like Crosby, Malkin, Fleury, and Letang saved that franchise, and now I think Pittsburgh's like a key piece of the NHL for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
Missed the playoffs this year though.
I get yeah.
Speaking of
No
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh
one
basketball
one
fan.
loss, the butterfly effect. If they didn't lose to Chicago that one game, Florida wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Yeah, holy hell! The end of the season.
It was like a big butterfly
Yeah,
effect, and then also if the Blackhawks didn't win that game, they wouldn't have won the Connor
yeah,
Bedard sweepstakes.
like
So,
that is one of the single like if Florida wins the cup, that's one of the single most important games ever, and it's a random regular season game
hmm
against a team that didn't make the playoffs and a team that was not in last place even. Like
hmm
it's very rare that you get to see stuff like that.
I wish this is random, but I wish even though I hated both teams and both teams' dynasties, I wish there would have been a Chicago Pittsburgh Stanley Cup
Ooh,
final at
that
some
would have been
point
fun.
in the 2010s. Like
Yeah,
that would have been great.
although getting Cleveland's Golden State every single year, yeah, maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed that so much.
Yeah. But yeah,
Seeing the
so
exact
that's
same
our
teams.
picks for the NBA Finals. We both have Denver in five, but we both had Suns over Bucks. So who
Yeah,
knows?
forgot we both did.
We literally had the same playoff.
Yeah,
Like every single series was the same.
we've almost been as wrong as we could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Who did I guess I probably had Boston. No, yeah.
Yeah, Boston 76ers was my Eastern Conference Finals, and then my West was Suns Lakers.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Well, one thing I will say is that I did have Miami winning their first play-in game, being the 7 seed, and then taking Boston to 7 in the round one. So, listen, I knew Miami was capable of something, but listen,
But this,
after that play-in game against the Hawks, I was like, okay, this Miami team sucks.
yeah, no, they lost, and it wasn't even like close. Like no one showed up, and
Yeah,
now we're here.
yeah. And now we're here, still talking about Jimmy Butler, and it's May 31st. So,
One other piece of respect, I think it was for Caleb Martin, scored the most points in a, I think Eastern Conference Finals for an undrafted player ever. I think the he beat John Starks for that record,
that would make
former
sense.
New York Knick
Good
legend.
on him.
So
Yeah.
huge respect for Caleb Martin for, and that's another reason why I really think he should have won that, just for how historic that performance was from an undrafted guy.
hmm Yeah, it's just, and that's another thing too. It's like Jimmy Butler had the averages to, make a case, but it's just like I feel like that award is just gonna end up being whoever's the
Popularity,
face of the
yeah,
team.
it's gonna be a popularity vote forever.
Yeah, and
And
like
then,
not to
yeah,
say Jokic wasn't amazing in the Western Conference Finals, but like you could argue that it should have been Jamal Murray, but he's not the Jokic of
yeah,
this
and
era.
it's gonna be the same thing here, where it's like no matter how good Jamal Murray plays in this finals, I think it's gonna be Jokic who wins finals
Same with
MVP.
Bam. It's like it's a two-man race.
It really is. It's going
If
to
Miami
be.
wins, it's Jimmy's award. If it's Denver, then it's Jokic's award.
Do you think this will be a year we see some Jimmy Butlers on the Finals MVP bracket? Anyways, personally, me, I think he's going to do that. I think he'll go off.
Yeah. He has to go off, and I think
I
he
mean, yeah,
will.
well, he
He's just one
has
of
to.
those players where like he won't let himself down. You know,
Yeah, that's a good point.
once he realizes, you know, he's gotta it
He's
actually, he's actually gotta put up or shut up. He usually puts up. So yeah,
so
it's
big respect. I'm very excited to be watching this final series.
mhm. Even though it would have been more of a not more of a contest because Boston had some games where they looked bad. Like I'm kind of happy it's Heat Nuggets rather than Celtics
Oh,
Nuggets.
and then one other point for the Heat Nuggets benefit is the fact that Jokic and Joe Johnson are have practically fought, and the Jokic brothers are
hmm
crazy as well. So
The
there's
beef.
another piece of beef there, and then there's also Aaron Gordon and Kyle Lowry who have been beefing a little bit too. So we
hmm
all feel little ripples here, where it makes it a lot more exciting than what Celtics versus Heat would have been, or
Yeah,
Celtics versus Denver would have been.
I think it'll be scrappy, lots
It's
of
more
after the
personal.
whistle type stuff. I think it'll be a good, even if it is a sweep, I think, it'll be entertaining nonetheless.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't wait for the finals. I can't wait to see what's going on, and we'll see you guys when we record next. It'll be for the NHL episode.
Yeah, Stanley Cup Finals coming up shortly, but until then, enjoy the NBA Finals.
Thank you, everyone. See ya.